Since morning, I've been hearing some great stories sitting here. When I was contacted from Amity School on last Saturday, and I was told that you can speak on anything, I was at a loss to think a topic. As a doctor, as a psychiatrist, as a military man, and now as a senior healthcare manager, there's a variety of experiences to speak from. Starting from facing the bullets in Srinagar to almost drowning in full battle here in the Arabian Sea. There are too many, but then I knew I was speaking to a group of youngsters and I remembered my son and the topic was chosen. You know, my son, when he was a young child, I spent a fortune buying toy cars for him, literally hundreds of them. Racing those cars with his friends was his greatest pleasure as a child. When he grew up, naturally he entered the world of video games, and obviously the auto racing was his favorite genre. So I was extremely surprised when he turned 18 and showed no inclination to drive my car. In fact, it took almost 1 year of persuasion to make him take a driving license. He said driving was tedious and boring. And that really alarmed me. And I started on a search on my own. And maybe today's lecture is what I found in that search. The US Federal Highway Traffic Authority has shown that the number of 16-year-olds, the percentage of 16-year-olds who are applying for a driving license has reduced by 1/3. And the number and the distances driven by teenagers have reduced by 1/4. The youngsters are not doing the real things. That relieved me a little, and so when my daughter turned 18 and she followed the same procedure, I could look at it in a stoic way. My son still claims that his passion is racing, and I still keep begging him to drive my car once in a while. What he has done, what you people do, what I do, we have substituted a piece of reality with virtuality. Reality is defined by Oxford Dictionary as seeing things as they really exist or they actually exist, and not as an idealistic notion or a notion of or an idea of what it should be. Whereas virtuality is defined as it exists in the mind, usually a product of imagination, or it exists as a result of a digital media. Now research shows that this is a continuum. There is a reality at one end, then augmented reality, augmented virtuality, and finally virtuality or virtual reality. Each of us, we are a product of years of experience. Experience of events, of relationships, of our genes, of our upbringing, cultural upbringing, and an underlying interest of self-survival, an instinct for self-survival. From this mixture of things, we evolved a concept of self, a story about ourselves, an identity of ourselves. And it is through this lens that we look at the world and we create something called an individual reality. And all our activities are guided from this individual reality. Now real life today has Some of them were telling their life stories. Real life is full of hardships. Sometimes the experiences in life are too much to take. A failed movie, a broken relationship, a failure in exams, a broken venture. Sometimes it's difficult and we may need to take a step back, escape from the reality, and then maybe come back at it with a renewed vigor, with rejuvenation. Hence, escapism, as we call that in psychiatry, is a very common phenomenon. It is an intentional withdrawal or an intentional disengagement, detachment from the reality. It generally follows an adverse emotional event. So, because it is so distinct, it is very common. It is escapism, as we call that, is very common in normal life. In fact, you have heard of Sigmund Freud, right? Sigmund Freud said that a quantum of escapism is required in normal human life, because he said that the normal life does not give enough satisfaction. It is very difficult to extract enough satisfaction from the real life. But what is sobering, what we must all get sober about, is that ultimately he got addicted to the virtual realities that he tried to create out of his cocaine habit. So when you look at it, there is an increasing escapism in this world, maybe because of the increasing stresses of the current modern life. Now, it comes in different garbs. It may be in the form of books, movies, tourism. It may be in the form of drugs, in the form of internet. There is an average of 5 to 6% growth in tourism. 1.2 billion people traveled internationally. That's almost 1/6 the population, the world population. And equally, there are 246 million people with a problem drug use in this world. So escapism has been now accepted as a way of life. But what you must understand is that escapism is an unhealthy way of dealing with situations in real life. Because generally escapism occurs as a negative emotion, as a result of a negative emotion, and you must always consider that facing the emotion should be your default mode of life, of real life. Because whatever you do to escape, sooner or later you have to come back to that reality. Ultimately, as a psychiatrist, I deal with people who try to escape from reality. And what I have seen is that chronic escaping tendency leads to destruction of self. What I see in chronic schizophrenics and autistic people. So escapism cannot be a way of dealing with life. Today, what has happened is the increasing use of digital means, the virtuality in the digital world in use in escaping from the real life. That is why my today's topic, from reality to virtuality. What started as an email or an SMS or messaging, which are real life experiences, has now grown into augmented reality. A little bit of water. Sorry, I am having a stuff. What started as a normal thing has now grown into augmented reality and augmented virtuality. The advance in research is so much that within a few years, virtual reality will be freely available very cheaply to the general public. And I shudder at the thought of it. Because virtual reality is something that gives you limitless experience. experience that is available on demand. I want to be in Russia, it is available immediately. I want to be underwater, it is available immediately. It is experience on demand, it is limitless, and nothing is impossible. As a psychiatrist, I am worried about the possibility of dependence and addiction. What you must understand is that research, even though virtual reality is going to bring a lot of benefits, the abusive potential is so high. If you look at the modern medicine drugs which are used for abuse potential, many of them started as real advances in medical treatment, but was diverted, whether it's benzodiazepine, whether it is angel dust, they all started as medical treatment drugs. So a good thing can be shifted into a drug or a method of abuse. If you look at it in a world, we have got something called white time. Have you heard of this concept of white time? White time is the time of a day in 24 hours. Generally it's around 4 to 5 hours a day. It is the real free time, white time. That is generally should be used for creative purposes. In fact, it decides who we will become. Now, studies have shown that already 80% of the white time is taken over by internet and other virtual world activities. With the coming up of VR, with the coming up of virtual reality, what is going to happen is this white time is going to get wiped out. And it is going to get, and in fact it is going to encroach into your sleep time and into your work time. It's already happening with some people. So what happens is that the touch with the real world, the touch with real relationships are going to drop, and that is going to fuel or accelerate further retreat into virtual worlds. The scenario is not so good. When the people start thinking that being in a social networking chat room is more pleasurable than a party, when online racing feels better than driving in the street, that is the beginning of the end of the society. It is a time, that's why I asked the question, Quo Vadis, where are you going? It is time that we as a society started looking at where the research in virtual reality is going. Already it is too late because it is done by billion-dollar companies which are more powerful than the governments of the world. Unless we look into it and see how this has to be directed and how it has to be done is something which you need to think of. First and foremost, I am very sure that among you there will be no one who spends less than 3 hours in the virtual world daily. There is no doubt about it. I can stay with absolute guarantee. What we have to understand is that the concept of a virtuaholic, the society needs to understand the concept of virtuaholic, something like an alcoholic. The psychiatrists do not yet know how to treat it, but we need to evolve methods to treat it. But what is more important is prevention. How do we prevent? And the first and the most important method is being aware of your real life experiences. It is not surprising that mindful therapy, you heard of this? Mindfulness therapy has is coming fast, gaining recognition as one of the major psychotherapeutic tools in treatment. Being mindful is being consciously, deliberately aware of your physical and mental experiences. like, if you like, sitting down and understanding what am I feeling. I can hear the voices, I can see what is happening, I know what is going, the emotions that I am feeling, the mental and the physical experiences, feeling them, experiencing them, non-judgment, deliberate, and focusing on the here and now. Not what that sound meant in the past, not what the sound is going to mean in future. What is that sound? Being aware of. Mindfulness is the beginning. It is actually just the opposite of escapism. It is going to being aware of the experience, whether it is good or bad, whether it is distressful or pleasurable. Being aware of it. Training to be aware of. And you do it again and again, you will find that you will grow comfortable with your experiences, even when if they are distressing. That is something which we need to practice. The second step, or what you can do, what we must learn, is to be aware of your own methods of escape. All of us escape. I escape. I know. But to be aware as to when do you escape and what is your preferred mode of escaping. Is it books? Is it movies? Is it drugs? Is it internet? Is it virtual reality? To be aware of what method you use, and then we have to dispassionately break it apart to identify what are the cues, what are the reasons you escape. In fact, you can do it if you ask yourself 3 questions and answer it honestly. The first question is, what am I doing, or why? What am I doing? What is that I am supposed to do which is making me escape from that? Why am I doing it? And third is, what am I going to gain by escaping? If you answer these 3 questions right honestly, you will find that there are times when you need not escape, and when you do it again and again, you will automatically find that your escape periods become lesser and lesser.